Imagine a man so charming, he could convince you he's your savior, a trusted doctor who promises safety in the darkest of times. But beneath this facade lies a sadistic monster. Marcel Petiot, known as Dr. Satan, preyed on the vulnerable during Nazi-occupied France, luring them to their deaths. His tale is one of deception, murder, and pure evil, hidden behind the guise of medical authority. How did a man trusted to heal become one of history's most terrifying serial killers? The chilling truth awaits. Welcome to True Stories Unevil, the channel where we unravel the darkest true crime stories, unsolved mysteries, and chilling real-life horrors. If you love a good mystery and tales that will keep you awake at night, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bell. Marcel Petiot was born on January 17, 1897, in Auxerre, France. From a young age, Petiot displayed unsettling and deviant behavior that hinted at deep psychological issues. His upbringing was marked by frequent misbehavior in school, antisocial conduct, and a blatant disregard for rules or societal norms. While many children experience rebellious phases, Petiot's actions went beyond mere mischief. He was expelled multiple times from schools for disruptive behavior, including theft, cruelty to animals, and inappropriate actions toward other students and teachers. What set Petiot apart was not just his disruptive behavior, but the way he seemed detached from any sense of morality or empathy. He had a disturbing tendency to laugh off punishments, showing no remorse or understanding of the gravity of his actions. This early pattern of behavior suggests that Petiot may have had a psychological condition linked to sociopathy or psychopathy, characterized by a lack of empathy, guilt, or concern for others' well-being. These early warning signs, however, were either ignored or dismissed by those around him, who may have viewed his actions as just youthful troublemaking. As Petiot grew older, his criminal behavior escalated. He was known to commit petty thefts, vandalize property, and engage in acts of cruelty toward animals. His actions were often unpredictable and impulsive, showing a need for control and dominance over others. At the same time, Petiot was intellectually gifted, which allowed him to manipulate those around him. His intelligence, however, was coupled with a lack of emotional intelligence, making him adept at outsmarting people, but incapable of forming meaningful connections. During his adolescence, Petiot's criminal activities became more sophisticated. In one notorious incident, he was caught stealing from a local post office, an act that could have led to significant legal consequences. However, he managed to avoid serious punishment by using his charm and wit to convince the authorities that his actions were a result of a temporary lapse in judgment. This ability to manipulate those in power would become a recurring theme throughout his life, allowing him to escape justice for years. When World War I broke out in 1914, Petiot enlisted in the French army, hoping to find a sense of purpose and escape his troubled past. However, the war only exacerbated his psychological issues. He was involved in several battles where he witnessed death and destruction on an unimaginable scale. Like many soldiers, Petiot suffered from shell shock, now known as PTSD, but his symptoms were far more severe. He exhibited erratic behavior, extreme mood swings, and violent outbursts, which led to his eventual discharge from the army on the grounds of psychological instability. The trauma of war had a profound impact on Petiot's psyche, further fueling his already dangerous tendencies. The violence and chaos of the battlefield seemed to desensitize him to the suffering of others, reinforcing his lack of empathy and deepening his fascination with death. This period in his life marked a turning point, as he began to view human life as something disposable, a belief that would drive his actions in the years to come. Despite his discharge from the military, Petiot managed to enroll in medical school, leveraging his intellectual abilities to become a qualified doctor. His medical career, however, was riddled with suspicions and unethical practices from the start. He opened a private practice, where he quickly gained a reputation for being charming and attentive, qualities that helped him attract a steady stream of patients. However, behind this facade of respectability, Petiot was involved in illegal activities, including performing unsafe abortions, writing fraudulent prescriptions, and even stealing from his patients. His behavior during this period was marked by a combination of greed, sadism, and a desire for control. Petiot often targeted vulnerable individuals, such as young women seeking abortions or elderly patients with limited financial means. He would manipulate and exploit them for his own gain, showing no concern for the harm he caused. His growing disregard for the sanctity of life and his increasing involvement in criminal activities foreshadowed the horrors he would later commit during World War II. Petiot's ability to evade justice during his early medical career can be attributed to his charm and intelligence. He was a master manipulator, able to convince authorities, colleagues, and patients that he was a caring and competent doctor. Even when accusations of malpractice and illegal activities surfaced, Petiot was able to deflect blame and escape serious consequences. His sociopathic tendencies allowed him to lie convincingly and manipulate those around him with ease, ensuring that he remained free to continue his criminal activities. One of the most notable incidents during this period involved the suspicious death of one of his patients. The patient, a wealthy elderly woman, died under mysterious circumstances shortly after visiting Petiot's clinic. Although there was strong evidence suggesting foul play, Petiot was never formally charged. Instead, he managed to shift suspicion onto others and continued his practice as if nothing had happened. This pattern of avoiding responsibility and deflecting blame would become a hallmark of his later crimes. As Petiot's career progressed, his sadistic tendencies became more pronounced. He seemed to derive pleasure from the suffering of others, particularly when he could exert control over them. His fascination with death, combined with his medical knowledge, allowed him to experiment with different ways of inflicting pain and suffering. In some cases, he would perform unnecessary procedures on his patients, subjecting them to painful and dangerous treatments for no medical reason. These acts of cruelty were not driven by financial gain, but by a deep-seated desire to dominate and control his victims. Petiot's sadism extended beyond his professional life. He was known to engage in violent and abusive behavior in his personal relationships, particularly with women. He viewed others as mere objects to be used and discarded, showing no empathy or compassion for their suffering. His ability to compartmentalize his actions, presenting himself as a respectable doctor while secretly indulging in acts of cruelty, allowed him to continue his sadistic behavior without arousing suspicion. Petiot's early life and career were marked by a gradual escalation of criminal behavior, from petty theft and fraud to more serious offenses like illegal abortions and murder. His ability to avoid punishment, combined with his growing fascination with death and control, set the stage for his transformation into one of France's most notorious serial killers. By the time World War II broke out, Petiot had honed his skills as a manipulator and killer, using the chaos of the war to further his sadistic desires. The war provided Petiot with the perfect cover for his crimes. As a doctor, he offered to help Jews and other refugees escape Nazi-occupied France, promising them safe passage to South America. In reality, Petiot was luring his victims into a trap, murdering them and stealing their money and possessions. His ability to exploit the suffering of others, combined with his medical expertise, made him an exceptionally dangerous predator. By the time he was caught, Petiot had murdered at least 27 people, though the true number of his victims is believed to be much higher. Petiot's psychological profile fits that of a classic psychopath. He exhibited a complete lack of empathy, a disregard for social norms, and a tendency toward manipulation and deceit. His intelligence and charm allowed him to mask his true nature, making it difficult for others to see him as the monster he truly was. At the same time, his sadism and fascination with death suggest a deeper psychological disturbance, possibly linked to his experiences during World War I. One of the most striking aspects of Petiot's psychology is his ability to compartmentalize his actions. He could present himself as a caring doctor even as he was committing horrific crimes. This duality allowed him to evade suspicion for years, and it speaks to the complexity of his personality. While many serial killers are driven by a specific psychological compulsion, Petiot's crimes seem to have been motivated by a combination of greed, sadism, and a desire for control. This makes him a particularly dangerous and unpredictable killer, one whose psychological profile remains difficult to fully understand. Marcel Petiot's early life and psychology offer a chilling glimpse into the mind of a man who would go on to become one of France's most infamous serial killers. From his troubled childhood to his sadistic career as a doctor, Petiot's life was marked by a gradual escalation of criminal behavior, driven by a deep-seated need for control and domination. His ability to manipulate others, combined with his complete lack of empathy, made him an exceptionally dangerous predator. As we explore the later stages of his life and his horrific crimes during World War II, it becomes clear that Petiot was not just a killer, but a true embodiment of evil.